Everybody.
Yo. Hi, Sam.
Hi,
Oh,
everyone. Thanks for joining. I'll give people a couple minutes to get in. All right. Wow, thank you all so much for joining. This is great to see so many of you. I was like, I wonder if anybody will come be interested in hearing what I'm seeing. Let's see. Thank you so much for joining. There's somebody named Sam who's coming in.
where are you specifically right now?
Let's see. I'm in Tel Aviv right now. Hold on, let me turn my volume so I can hear you.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'll get started in like a minute or so. I uh didn't get a chance to fully charge my computer, so hopefully it will last for this whole session, but if not, I'll switch to my iPhone. Um, I see I'm getting low on battery. Um, all right. Well, I will.
Are you on your hotel balcony?
Yes, I am right now. I'm looking out the Mediterranean Sea, and right behind me is the skyline here in Tel Aviv. Hope that you all are doing well. Um, so I'm actually staying for those of you who went on the Israel trip with me over the summer at the same hotel, so not too shabby. Um, and I got in this morning about 4 o'clock in the morning. It was weird to see. It was weird to see how empty the streets were. Even though it was middle of the night, like not too many cars on the highway or anything. So each day I'll tell you a little bit about my day. I'm with a group of, in total, there's 11 of us who came, of progressive rabbis, specifically who are affiliated with the Reform movement. And nine of us are, there's two leaders and then nine of us who are in the first 15 years of our rabbinate, who are fellows. This fellowship was put together in response to seeing a growing number of Reform rabbis who are not vocally supportive of Israel and are, in fact, very critical of Israel. Um, and seeing that we're kind of the next generation of leaders of this movement, if we can take it back in a very pro-Israel direction. So yeah, anyhow, there are 13 fellows in total. Nine of us chose to come and on this fellowship. And it's going to include also visits to Miami and to New York in over the next year, and monthly webinars and mentoring. So anyhow, we were going to do this trip before the war broke out, and once the war broke out, we figured that it was more important than ever to come and show solidarity with Israel, support Israel, and show that progressive Jews are, and when I say progressive, I mean like reform and conservative, not liberal, not like politically progressive, that progressive Jews are supportive of Israel. And build relations and advance the cause of progressive Judaism here. So our day began with meeting Einat Wilf, who's a former member of Knesset. She wrote a by the way, yes, great to hear about the rally in DC, and I know some of our congregants are there too. If I were in the US, I'd go to it. Anyhow, our day began with meeting Einat Wilf. Einat Wilf was a former member of Knesset. She's absolutely brilliant, went to Harvard undergrad and Cambridge for her master's degree. And she wrote a book that I really recommend to everyone called The War of Return. And The War of Return talks about the Israeli perspective on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And Einat herself is a center left person, and she basically dismantled to us the Palestinian arguments of the obstacles for peace. It's that we hear that there's land, that they want land, that they want into settlements, that they want East Jerusalem as a capital. And yet in 2000 and 2008, they were offered all these things. In 2000, Ehud Barak offered Yasser Arafat 95% of what he asked for, and the other 5% was going to be land for swaps, and that the Palestinians would have parts of East Jerusalem, and including the parts of the old city, would be under Palestinian jurisdiction and control, and yet, and there was going to be no settlements in what would become the Palestinian state. Not only was this rejected, but what Einat Wolf pointed out was that nobody seemed in the Palestinian circles seemed to have any dissent about this being rejected. Nobody said, "What are we doing? Why was this rejected?" Um, uh, in fact, the only area where we saw dissent in Palestinian circles was Yasser Arafat coming to the negotiation tables at all. She said, so it's really not about this. What it comes down to is that there's really only one acceptable goal, and that is the destruction of Israel. And because we don't see that type of dissent otherwise. Uh, and so that's what Einat Wolf was talking to us about. And what she suggested, which what I thought was a very thoughtful take on the peace process, was that what the response should be. I'm hearing that Air Force flying overhead. So what she suggested as an appropriate response was she talked about Japan post World War II and how for generations Japan had learned racial superiority of the Japanese. In post World War II, she took books, and the Japanese had their children take out school books and take Sharpies and black out anywhere in their books that showed anything about Japanese superiority, and then hold the books up to the sun so the sun would fade the lettering away. And they created a generation in Japan that completely rejected that ideology. And when you look at Palestinian education material, this is what you see is being taught over and over and over again is the idea that Israel needs to be wiped out. And so what Einat Wolf talked about for her solution for a peace process isn't any more land for peace deals right now, because over and over again, Palestinians have been offered this, but they haven't accepted it. They've rejected it every single time. Rather, what she talked about is how there needs to be re-education and a dismantling of this idea that the Jewish state needs to be destroyed, and an acknowledgement that Jews have a right to independent statehood and self-determination in their historic home. After meeting with Einat Wolf in Beit Daniel, which is the Center of Progressive Judaism here in Tel Aviv, and by the way, I made a donation of 1,000 shekels from my discretionary fund on behalf of our synagogue to Beit Daniel. Let's see, we went and met with Avishai Abrahami. Avishai Abrahami is a billionaire. He created Wix, and a bunch of other companies. And כן. יש גשם עכשיו? תודה רבה. אני חושב שאני בסדר. זה לא נורא. מאיפה אתם? שדרות, כולם בשדרות. So I'm in a hotel here in Tel Aviv. It's starting to rain a little, so they were warning me about my laptop getting wet. And pretty much everyone in my hotel is from southern Israel, like specifically the town of Sderot, and has been evacuated. I want to thank Salt Lake City Police Department. They gave me a couple hundred of these police badges. And I've been handing them out to the children here, and they're very excited about getting those. Oh, did I? Okay. I don't know what that is. Did I lose you all? Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Am I- Okay, great. So anyways, um, so yeah, hundreds of people staying in this hotel have been evacuated from southern Israel and are currently displaced. So we met with Avishai Abrahami, and he talked about how one of his solutions to the conflict is he set up a headquarters for his company, like a place to employ people in the West Bank, and hired Palestinians. Now, why did he do that? He said that that a lot of these folks weren't qualified for jobs and stuff, but not only would it boost the Palestinian economy, but also this gave Israelis and Palestinians the opportunity to work together and to get to know each other. And that was the pathway for peace, either violence and eradicate our enemy or working together. So what you see from the BDS movement often, and this is what killed SodaStream in the West Bank, is that people go, oh, we should boycott Israelis businesses, especially ones that have headquarters that have factories and stuff in the West Bank. And not only do a lot of Palestinians not want that because they're working for larger wages and better opportunities there, but also this enables them to have interactions that are positive with Israelis. And so anyhow, what he's also doing is he's created apps here in Israel that that allow people to that allow folks. I want to move it a bit more under cover. He's created apps that allow people to be able to see what kind of hotels have availability for when they're displaced, and also uh, he's told people he's also created apps for people to see hi there to see what their family is. אתם רוצות לומר משהו לאנשים לארצות הברית על המלחמה?
I don't speak English.
Shalom.
אנחנו מדברים קצת עברית.
איך קוראים לך? הדס? יש משהו שהם כדאי להם לדעת על המלחמה או?
Don't show me. I love American.
They love America. All right. So, anyhow, also going back to not Wilf, a couple of things that she said, too, is that that I forgot to say is that in the around the world, be it Nazism, you know, Nazism, Arab, Pan-Arabism, etc., these have been deeply rooted anti-Semitism. And what we've seen, and now we're seeing it with far leftism in the United States and around the world, is that these folks don't really care about the Palestinians. They are using them as a vehicle to be able to push an anti-Semitic agenda, in that they aren't actually advocating on behalf of the Palestinians. And we've seen that when Hamas was killing hundreds of Palestinians about 15 years ago, they didn't say anything. This is an opportunity to be and what they've done is what she calls placard advocacy, which is putting, Star of David equals fascism, Nazism, colonialism, imperialism, etc., to the point, or Zionism equals, these things. And what that has done is that it has created on the global stage an opportunity for people to become anti-Semitic, because that is the only reason why we are seeing far leftists finding any sort of unity with jihadists is over a shared hatred of Jews because far leftists are often very attracted to placard advocacy. So, what she talked about is that we very often hear Israel is an apartheid state, and it doesn't do us much good to be able to say, oh no, here's all the reasons why. It's not, because ultimately people don't particularly care about that. What we need to focus on is showing how there's no Palestinian dissent whatsoever, to refusal for negotiations with Israel, and also how you can't find that anywhere, and basically the focus should be on the need for education as opposed to trying to be reactionary and defend Israel constantly, because it is already ingrained in these folks' minds that Israel equals all these bad isms. Finally, the last place we visited today was the Sheba Medical Center, which is the largest hospital in the Middle East. It's one of the top 10 hospitals in the world. We met with one of the lead folks, doctors there, and he's very impressive. He's fought in 3 Israeli wars, 6-Day War, Yom Kippur War, Lebanon War. He also is the son-in-law of Shimon Peres, and he founded an organization called Doctors for Human Rights. Every week, they go to Palestinian areas, and uh, and um, uh, and like to the West Bank, and offer medical care to Palestinians. And they bring from Gaza, before this war began, they would bring people from Gaza up to the Sheba Medical Center to get medical care. And as part of what they would do is, before they release them back to Gaza after they got treatment, they would take them on a field trip to Jerusalem and take them to the Al-Aqsa Mosque so they could tell their friends about it. And they did peace building this way. The doctor then took us to meet with people who had been directly impacted by the war. And I met with a young man who lost his leg from a Hezbollah rocket a few weeks ago. But we spent 45 minutes talking with this one man who, and I want to upload the video on my Facebook. Please watch it and share it, even though it's long. It was like, I'm going to try not to cry just talking about what happened. He was in Kibbutz Be'eri, right there on the border with Gaza. This was one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on October 7th. He started getting WhatsApp messages from people in the kibbutz saying they're killing all of us, and this person's dead, this person's dead. And so then he pushed himself against the door of his home, and Hamas tried to get inside, and he wouldn't let them in, and he kept yelling at them to leave. And they shot through the door, and first they shot his son in both arms, and then they shot again, and him in the leg with a high-powered rifle, and he was able to get into a safe room with his family, and he barricaded the safe room with a couch, and they kept trying to get in, and they started shooting through the door. And he was in there with him, his wife, his 13-year-old daughter, and his 15-year-old son. His wife was killed. She was sitting next to her for hours, and she got shot twice and died in his arms. And he's 50 now. He'd been with her since she was 17 years old. He then also, his son was bleeding to death. And after about 10 hours, his son turned to him and said, Abba, when you bury me, will you make sure you bury me with my surfboard? And then he breathed his last breath and died in this man's arms. So he was there with his wife, and his wife and his son had been killed. He had been shot several times throughout his body, and his Hamas, his daughter was wounded because they threw a grenade, and she got shrapnel in her leg. They couldn't get into the safe room, so they decided to torch the house with them inside of it. He in order to survive, what he and his daughter did was they took cloths that they had in there, and they soaked the cloth in their blood and also urinated on the cloth, and then held it to their face to be able to breathe through the smoke. And he was in that safe room for 13 hours with his daughter, and the only thing that kept him alive was that he said, my daughter has just lost her mom and brother, and she can't lose me too. And once he was rescued, he was taken to the hospital, and he had his right leg amputated, and he's going to be in the hospital for the next 4 months. I asked him how we could help, and he said he was so grateful. He said, I have money. My community is a wealthy community. We'll be fine. The kibbutzim around us are not. They are not wealthy, and they lost everything. He said, like Nahal Oz, Kibbutz Aza, others like this. He said, donate to those kibbutzim because they're going to have to rebuild everything. And even with everything, he said that he felt so fortunate. He felt so lucky. He said, I got to have my wife for 33 years. There was another couple that got killed a few days after their wedding. I got to have my son for 15 years. There were babies that were killed. I'm so lucky. And while we were talking with him, a siren went off, but it was on another side of Tel Aviv, so we didn't have to go into the shelters. But we could hear the siren in the distance. We could hear the explosions, and one of the rockets hit Tel Aviv. There was a barrage of rockets, and one of them hit Tel Aviv, and 3 people were injured. That was that was day one. Powerful, very powerful day. I'll be sharing a lot on my social media pictures I took. I recorded that whole man's testimony. I tell you, it was like hearing a Holocaust survivor's testimony, except this happened a month ago. And wow, it was very, very. Do you all have any questions for me?
Sam, can you hear me?
Hi, Mom.
Hi, honey. I miss you. I was just wondering, when you were there in the hospital, did you meet with any of the Palestinians?
No. We our time was mostly with that one gentleman because he talked for about 45 minutes. I don't know how many Palestinians from this particular conflict have gone up there, but with this war, this affected a lot of people in southern Israel, including Arabs. This hospital, by the way, employs 20% of their staff is Arab, including doctors, department heads, and stuff. And a big part of their philosophy there is having Arab be attended by Jewish doctors and Jews attended by Arab doctors, and they don't let people complain about that or whatever. They say you're getting the best care in the world. Like, be grateful, and through that, hopefully building.
Rabbi Sam?
Yeah.
Are you hearing a lot of optimism about recovery of the hostages?
No. We know yesterday Hamas showed a video of a soldier who was being held hostage, and IDF intelligence determined that video was shot a few weeks ago and that she's actually dead. So I don't know. when I lived in Israel, Gilad Shalit was captive, and I talked with Gilad Shalit's father many times, and Israelis were very much in support of a prisoner swap for Gilad Shalit, and eventually over 1,000 Palestinian terrorists were released for Gilad Shalit, and including people like Yahya Sinwar, the current prime minister of Hamas, who was the mastermind of this. And so Israel is, we don't know how many of the hostages are still alive. I think there might be some hope, but I mean, right now the focus is the war and eradicating Hamas, and a recognition that Hamas needs to be eradicated. And people also frustrated that all the calls for humanitarian ceasefires and humanitarian pauses, including that by the reform movement yesterday and stuff, and saying we should say there will be no pauses whatsoever until all the children are released, at least, or all this. And you want us to stop bombing and everything? Okay, we'll stop bombing. Release everybody who's under the age of 5, and you'll get a pause for 6 hours. And that should be the swaps. So yeah, so that's the situation. So not a whole lot of optimism, but today there was a big march from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem from the hostages' families, and we'll be meeting in the coming days with some of those folks.
Rabbi, is
Yes.
there anything that we can do on this side of the ocean to put pressure on the International Red Cross to get proof of life of the hostages? That's one of their responsibilities according to the Geneva Convention.
Absolutely it is. I mean, Laura, I would say do what you're doing, which is bring that point to our members of Congress and senators over and over and over again. That's all.
That's been done. That's been done.
I don't know what else.
I can only ask everybody on this call to do the same thing as I do and insist on our Senate and House to give no money to the International Red Cross until they bring us some proof of life on our hostages.
Farther. Yeah. Today, by the way, or yesterday, Israeli soldiers run TC Hospital in Gaza, and underneath the hospital, they found tunnels. They found motorcycles that were used to go between the tunnels. They found suicide bomb vests. They found rockets. They found weapons, but they also found baby bottles and diapers that were for the baby hostages. And they found chairs with ropes on it, showing that there had been hostages held there, but had been moved as through the tunnels as Israelis were going there. So you hear again through the international community all this like outrage of Israel surrounding hospitals. Unfortunately, that's very intentional, because that is where Hamas is doing all these things, and we have proof of that. Yeah, so that's the it's using people as human shields, and Israel today was bringing incubators and different things to the hospitals that they had captured in Gaza, and said, what supplies do you need? What help do you need? And had those conversations with those hospitals. Are there any other questions or anything?
Sam, has the IDF been effective in going through the tunnels and actually finding any hostages other than the one that they were able to rescue?
Other than the one they rescued, not yet. You understand there's hundreds and hundreds of miles of tunnels there. So they probably moved all of them into southern Gaza at this point, and the IDF has captured northern Gaza. But what something else I wanted to share, really touching to see, like, when I was here over the summer, I've never seen Israel more divided because of the judicial reform. Now I've never seen Israel more united. There are billboards everywhere. There's an entire building. I'll share all this on my Facebook. Entire building lit up with the Israeli flag, and it says in Hebrew, "United we will win." And that's what that become the motto for the whole country is united we will win, and saying we have to be united on this. So seeing a lot more soldiers around, things like that.
Rabbi, I don't have a, I have a million questions, but I'm not going to ask them right now. I just want to say, and I'm sure I speak for everybody, how appreciative we are of you and how proud we are of you to be there on behalf of us and behalf of, you know, Jews all over the world, particularly in Israel. And I'll also just say, please be careful.
Thank you. No,
Please be careful.
We're
Okay?
being as careful as possible. We have gone over, we know where all the shelters are. We've gone over what to do if we're out, driving and there's a siren. So yeah, thank you. We're making safety our biggest concern at this point and not going to areas that are very unsafe, but there's nowhere in Israel that's purely safe at this time. There's nowhere in the world that's purely safe to be Jewish at this time. I lay over in France and you could see basically the entire French army outside of the El Al ticket counter protecting it. So, any other questions, comments?
I would like to ask one. This is Sue Latham. Hi,
Hi, Sue.
Sam. I just want to ask you what it's like being an American there, coming from the outside, knowing you're going to be there for a short time, and what is the kind of reception? What are
Sure.
people's reactions? And who are the other people who are going there right now?
So the other people, there's a lot of rabbinic delegations here actually. But there's in the previous weeks, a lot of Israelis from abroad came back to serve in the army. The reception I've gotten from everyone I've met, including just people in the hotel today, is thank you for coming. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for telling our stories. And really grateful that we're here. Especially again when
cleaned. So if you had a stain that you need them to come, then I gave you a warranty card.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, with people are really grateful that we're here. And they are very appreciative of solidarity. And I think it's really important, especially when the Union for Reform Judaism makes statements that seem critical of Israel or whatever, and that gets the headlines. Or, this is what we need to have a moral reckoning with as rabbis, is we all had opinions on, on the embassy, U.S. embassy being moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Some of us were supportive of it, some of us were against it. But after the decision had already been made, they were talking about how the Israelis were talking to us about how the URJ. I'm zooming my congregation right now. So this is Rabbi Ina.
Hi.
Rabbi in New Jersey. Hi, cousin. Any name? So she's like, how are you still awake? Anyhow, so I got in 4 a.m. this morning. So anyhow, after the decision had already been made, the Union for Reform Judaism, released a statement condemning the move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, something that over 90% of Israelis were supportive of. And I totally get why the URJ felt that way and did that, but Trump's not going to listen to the URJ. The Israelis government is certainly not going to listen to the URJ, and so all that statements like that do is make it seem to the Israelis that the reform movement does not support them, and so they're very glad that we're here as a result. And I've gotten a lot of thanks and appreciation. I've met with progressive Jews in Israel who are really thrilled. I'm going to switch to my phone just in case my computer dies. I have an opportunity to charge it. Any final questions, comments, anything like that?
Do you know anything about any anyone going into South Gaza, Southern Gaza, to help the victims of the war in South Gaza?
At this time, it's not safe. But the Israeli army is bringing in folks to northern Gaza.
Into northern Gaza, and they're safer in northern Gaza than they are in southern Gaza?
No, southern Gaza is safer than northern Gaza.
Yeah,
Southern Gaza, Israel has been telling the Palestinians, please go to southern Gaza. Hamas has been sniping their own people who've been trying to go there to keep them from going there. And now the Israeli soldiers are providing safe passage to folks to southern Gaza. But the Israeli army is not in southern Gaza at this point.
Rabbi, this is Ken Garin. It
Hi,
seems
Ken
to
Garin.
me, hi, it seems to me that one of the things that needs to be done is to mount an offensive on the international front to combat the false narrative that has been carefully constructed by the Hamas and Hezbollah and all of the radical Islamicists, so that there's an effective pushback against all the idiocy that they speak about.
And the far left here, yes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there absolutely needs to be. I mean, what's insane is that people are now questioning, did October 7th really happen? Or was that something that was created by the Zionists to be able to as a excuse to have this war? Like we've seen the videos that Hamas took themselves. At the Wix guy that I talked to, he talked about how he put his team was put in charge of compiling all of those that data and everything, and all the videos and editing it and everything and cleaning it up and everything, and how his employees are now on mental leave because of the things they saw in that video that they so what I'd say is keep talking about it. Don't spend your time responding to detractors and to people like who we don't have to spend all of our time counter protesting Palestinian protests in the US or whatever. It's not productive. But doing the advocacy work of talking to our elected officials, sharing on your social media, sharing, like I said, I'm going to post the 45-minute talk that this survivor who lost his wife and son and his leg gave to us, and share that stuff. That's what we need to do. At the end of the day, us arguing with anti-Semites and people who've already made up their mind that Jews equal Nazism, Jews equal colonialism, Jews equal whatever, is not going to we're not going to change those people's minds. We need to be speaking out though and sharing this information and doing advocacy work and pushing, and instead of being defensive, pushing a narrative of we need the Palestinians to focus on education for their people that is not calling for the river from the river to the sea, which is a genocidal statement. All right. Any other final comments, questions, anything?
Rabbi Spector, this is Mariah in Ithaca near Cornell University.
Yeah, I remember you, Maura.
I just wanted to say that just to tell you what's going on here, the Stand With Us rally in Washington was highly successful today. It was very well run, and a united front by our Republican and congressional leaders of the House and Senate, very united, 100% standing with Israel. And the crowd was terrific. Over 100,000 people, they said, and united message. I think they're doing a great job on the pushback and of the false narratives. And I just wanted to give you that good news. Plus, I wanted to say that President of Israel, Herzog, was beamed in, and it was such a positive message in terms of that, you know, they have our back too. They're aware of what's going on in the United States with respect to the anti-Semitism, and you know, they know we have their back and they have our back. So I thought that was a very positive thing.
Thank you. Something else that I just thought that we can do is talk to other faith leaders. Unfortunately, we have seen so many uh, faith leaders, particularly progressive Christian clergy, who have become anti-Israel and have been promoting anti-Semitism. I've been having deep talks with you know what? Screw it. I'll say who it is. I've been having deep talks with the Unitarian Church in Salt Lake City about messaging that they have put out there in the past, including saying, quote unquote, on their Facebook, most American Jews agree with Israel. The vast majority of American Jews agree with Israel, whether they're right or they're wrong. And I've demanded apologies before I will ever do anything with that church again. They said about me, knowing that you're, well, we can't talk to you knowing you're a Netanyahu supporter. You all know I'm not a Netanyahu supporter. I said, that's an anti-Semitic trope that you assume that just because I'm pro-Israel. They held a thing on Tisha B'Av last year promoting BDS voices in the BDS movement. Like, our progressive Christian colleagues have behaved for years now disgracefully and are part of the problem for why there's growing anti-Semitism on the left in America. And I don't think it's out of malice. These are good people. I think that they want to side with the underdog. That I think that they're wanting to be, they're following their heart, and they're being subjected to this placard advocacy. So I think what we need to do is engage in relationships with our progressive clergy colleagues and have them understand, not convince them to be pro-Israel, but understand how things like BDS movement and other things are anti-Semitic. That's what we can do. Talk to our progressive Christian friends about, again, not trying to win them over to the pro-Israel side, but having them understand how to be combatants to anti-Semitism. Let's see. So that, like, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I was going to say, oh, I see Charlie Goodman on here. Hi, Charlie. I mentioned this to the other folks. So you just joined. In our hotel, there are hundreds of people from southern Israel who've been evacuated up to here, and are living in the hotel. And there's among them dozens and dozens of small children who are essentially homeless now. And I've been giving them the stickers from the Salt Lake City Police Department that you gave to me, and they're very excited about it.
Thank you. Please, thanks for doing that, and please express our love and our prayers for them. So thanks for doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Captain Charlie Goodman for Salt Lake City Police Department, then Rockstar for us always. Any other questions, comments?
Hi, Rabbi Sam. It's Matt Davidson. Would it be appropriate to have one of the residents there that's from Sderot talk to us about how they're doing, just to share their thoughts, feelings of?
I can ask. There's a couple. I can get somebody.
Hopefully, someone who speaks English, or you can translate
right now. סליחה, אתם משדרות? מדברת אנגלית? אני רב מארצות הברית, אבל אני מדבר לקהילה שלי עכשיו, והם רוצים לשמוע ממישהו משדרות. רוצה לדבר איתם? לא רוצה? Okay, they don't want to talk right now, but I will maybe find somebody while I'm here who can, over this week, who maybe I can bring up and talk. Kind of putting people's thoughts.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, it kind of sheds light more on the human side as well.
Absolutely.
Sam, do you think you might be able to get Netta to come and say hello?
She's not so relevant to this particular thing, but Netta's a good friend of mine, and I'll go. I'm going
to give her my love. And also, I want you to know that the Presbyterian Church in Placidus is very pro-Israel, and prayers are going out specifically for you.
Yeah,
So
well,
you-
that's really nice. I know the Presbyterian Church nationally, though, I believe has endorsed BDS. So something that folks like that, the Presbyterian Church, New Mexico, wherever out there can do, is push back against their national church, and say we shouldn't be supporting BDS. BDS is anti-Semitic. The Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement that targets the only place it targets is the Jewish state. And why are we only targeting a Jewish state? Why and uh, and delegitimizing Jewish state? So I'm glad that the Presbyterian Church down in New Mexico is on the right side of this. I hope that they advocate against BDS, which again hurts the Palestinians, hurts the Israelis, hurts the peace process, and hurts Jews in the diaspora as well. So that's something the Presbyterian Church can do, push back against that nationally.
okay, I will do what I can to advocate.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Rabbi?
Yeah. I might lose you guys in a second, but I'll switch to my phone.
I had, if you go over the chat, I'd actually asked this and there, but you can ignore that because since you are bringing up relations with our neighbors here in Salt Lake. Coincidentally, I'm actually meeting with my interreligious dialogue class tonight, and all my fellow students have been really worried about what's going on. We're kind of going over issues like this week, coincidentally. Is there anything you would want me to relay to them? Like, I know you just got there, but between them being worried and this kind of being something we're trying to learn how we can avoid things like this and how we can get communities to work together and not lean into the underdog tropes and other such things. Like, is there anything you would want me to say to them when I meet them tonight?
Yeah, so I think that interacting with each other is a good thing. Ultimately, I think that's what we need to do. This has been my experience talking about Palestinians and Israelis. There was obviously major problems before the Second Intifada, but when Israelis and Palestinians could work together and stuff like that, and Palestinians could be employed in Israel and stuff more easily than they could today. There was less hatred and there was greater hope and support for a two-state solution than there is today. And I don't blame Gazans for hating Israel and Jews because they 50% of the population of Gaza was born after the Gaza disengagement in 2005. And so they've never met a Jew. These Israeli soldiers that are in Gaza now are probably the first Jews they've ever seen with their own eyes in person for most of them. And that is really problematic. And so we need to focus on education again, because if you read Enoch Wills, The War of Return, it goes into this in depth. But we need to be focusing on education and legitimacy of narratives. I think that's the most important thing. Is I cannot deny a Palestinian narrative because I am not a Palestinian. I can't say that their experiences are not valid or are inaccurate because what do I know? And I think though that what you're getting in the education system is or the Palestinians is a denial of any Israeli narrative. It should not be controversial that the Jews have a historic presence in the land of Israel. Like you dig here and you find that, and you read the Bible, you find that. There's so much proof of that, and yet they say Jews were never here in the Palestinian textbooks. So, recognizing that narrative, that the other's narrative is important to recognizing each other's narratives is important, and having exposure to one another. Like I said, Avishai Abrahami, he talked about how basically that is why he has a company in the West Bank, not to be occupiers, but to have Palestinians who have less education, might be not as great of employees as folks in Israel would be because of lack of resources. But he's doing that so that because he says that's the only way we can build peace. So
Thank you, Rabbi. Please
yeah,
be safe.
All right. If there's nothing else, I will be on every day between now and Monday, on this same link, sharing my reports from that day. And so, thank you all for tuning in. I'll make sure my computer is fully charged tomorrow. Appreciate you all.
Hey, thanks,
Thank
Rabbi.
you.
Great report.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care now.